Good morning and welcome to Cooler Outdoors. I am your host, Brandon Scott, and with me again today is my girlfriend Sabrina. And today we are going to be going up the Waptus River Trail towards Waptus Lake to do a little bit of hiking, maybe find a waterfall or two, and hopefully do some fly fishing. Thank you for joining us.
For today's final hike of the camping trip, we are going to be going up the Waptus River Trail towards Waptus Lake. Also, in the 100 Hikes in Washington's Alpine Lakes Wilderness, you can get any of the additions. This is one of the more popular hikes. It is also a horseable hike, so you can take horses up this trail. It is 8 miles one way to Waptus Lake, and from there, as you can see from the little informative map, there's a whole bunch, and I mean a whole bunch of trails branching off Waptus Lake, which, look at that right there. Spinola Creek goes up towards Deep Lake, which was part of yesterday's fun. And then there's also another trail bouncing off of here somewhere that I think goes up Trail Creek. It may or may not be completely abandoned, but meets up with the trail from yesterday right before Squaw Lake too. So it's all interconnected. Waptus Lake would be a future backpacking destination. It is 8 miles one way. I won't be able to get Sabrina to do that. That's a 16-mile day. That's a tough day for Nash and I. But we'll probably go a couple miles down the trail to the river, and there's supposedly a waterfall on the river that I think I'm going to stop at and fish at. More on that later.
So here we are cruising along the trail. It's about 2 miles from the trailhead to the Waptus River. We have to bounce along up and down and around some of these stony hummocks as we traverse the very base of Palale Ridge, which separates the main stem Cooper River from the Waptus River. Both drain into the Cle Elum River at almost exactly the same spot. They probably would have merged into one river system a long time ago if it wasn't for this very resistant spine of mostly swamp formation that is Palale Ridge. And the trailhead we started at, there's actually 3 trails that go from one trailhead. That's a very pretty fall shot. But the first trail on the furthest left is the Cooper River Trail, and that follows the Cooper River for about 4 miles upstream to Cooper Lake, passing Cooper Falls, which is quite pretty, and walking through the Cooper River Gorge, which is also quite pretty and scenic. You don't need to hike the Cooper River Trail to get to Cooper Lake. There's a mostly paved road that goes from Salmon Lasac Campground, or just before Salmon Lasac Campground, crosses the Cle Elum River, and then goes to the left side of the Cooper River and up and around and crosses the base of Cooper Lake to a campground there called Owhi, O-W-H-I. I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong, but oh well, for once I pronounced a Native American name wrong. But there's plenty of fish in Cooper Lake. It's pretty kayaking. If you go back further in the playlist, you'll see when Nash and I went kayaking on Cooper Lake a couple of months ago. If I can figure out how to embed it in the video, I will. If not, a couple of clicks away and you'll find it. Link will probably be in the description below too, if I remember that. Hush, Munchkin. The second of 3 trails is the Palale Ridge Trail, and that trail gets down and dirty to business, switchbacking up the face of Palale Ridge and then walking the Palale Ridge some 10 or 15 miles to the Pacific Crest Trail at some pass. I forget what it's called. It might be Waptis Pass, might be some other pass, but it's up high alpine ridgeline hiking. I'd like to do that at some point. That requires all of us to get in a little better shape, because that trail is steep to get up, and then it's a long dry day hike, so you got to pack lots of water and be in good shape, and probably do it about this time of year when it's not too hot, because if you try to do it in the springtime, you're going to be snowshoeing the whole day, and you do it in summer, you're just going to be cooking. So that's probably like an October-ish hike when the trailhead is relatively warm, and then you get up to the top of the ridge and you're bouncing along through the snow drifts and probably really pretty. And then the third trail is this trail, the Waptus Lake / Waptus River Trail, which goes 8 miles from the trailhead to the base of Waptus Lake, which is a very popular backpacking destination. There is probably 5 or 6 or 7 trails that branch off of the shores of Waptus Lake and goes literally everywhere. It is a huge area to go explore and go backpack, and this is the way to access it. And it's about, like I said, it's about 8 miles one way, so it'd probably take you most of a day to trundle your way in. And these first 2 miles you have to traverse the base of Palale Ridge to go from the Cooper River drainage over to the Waptus River drainage. And then as soon as you get to the Waptus River, pretty much you have to cross Our Creek, and you run into Our Creek Camp. And then from there on, the next 6 miles, oh, that is a gorgeous vine maple shot with good munchkin for scale. But there's plenty of campsites along the rivers. The one thing I will warn you about, as you can see right there, is also a very popular horse trail to get up into the Waptus backcountry, which I have no problem against. Horses, they're a great way of getting into the backcountry. I used to do it a bunch with my uncle in Montana. Some of my most favorite backpacking trips I've ever had were on horseback, going up to some high mountain lakes and catching some monster cutthroats. But yes, you'll have to watch out for horse poo, and there is certain campsites that are designated horse camps, so if you're backpacking and you probably don't want to stay because they might be a little stinky. As far as we're going today, we're gonna go to the river and upriver a little bit to where I think there might be a waterfall on the river, and then we'll probably just hang out along the river and hopefully get some fly fishing in and maybe catch a fish or two. But all the pretty fall colors are out. The vine maple, the huckleberries, the willows are starting to turn. The larches haven't turned yet though, so maybe in a couple weeks we'll get back up into the high country and we'll get to see the larches exploding with golden color in the sunshine and with a little snow in the background. So we're at the Our Creek Horse Camp, about 2.5 miles away from the trailhead. I have left Sabrina streamside because I am gonna go hunt for a waterfall that is supposed to be like less than a 1/4 mile upstream from here. And I hear something fairly suspicious. You know what? Hold on. We're gonna sack this plane and bring Sabrina over here. Alright, well, I left Sabrina back at the horse camp, relocated her to get a front row view of it. I think I got a much better front row view of this waterfall. And you bet your butt, I am going to bring my fly pole back, because I did pack it with me, and I'm gonna fish that whole pool on the far side of the rock. I bet that's a really good swimming hole too. But man, if this is what it looks like in fall, I could only imagine how loud and thunderous this looks in full spring snowmelt. I'm gonna see if I can get up and over and around, see if I can wrap around that way and go look at that and maybe get up the top. I don't think I'll be able to get up the top in the middle. I'd like to, but I don't think that's possible. I think I'm also gonna leave my hiking stick here, and away we're gonna go. Oh my. Come back with my fly pole, have my water shoes on, might be able to cross that, but I'm not sure I'll be able to get up that. Now I just gotta figure out how to get, there's no way I'm getting over there either. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. That is something else. Normally you don't get rivers of this size getting over much of a waterfall. They're usually just too powerful and they just obliterate, but so obviously this cross-cutting ridge line. Wow. This is something else. This is cool. That's gonna be one hell of a swimming hole and hopefully one hell of a fishing hole too in about 15 minutes. I guess I'll try to record as much of that as possible too. But yeah, you can see, you might be able to see the horse camp, or the overlook for the horse camp. It's right there. That's pretty. I hope to catch some big fish. I hope there's some big fish over there too. Don't need it tilted down for fishing or anything. I can have it tilted out for regular viewing mode. Munchkin's up ahead a little ways. We are now heading back up the trail, back to the trailhead and Rex to go home to finish out the camping trip. I probably got 5 or 6 solid bites, but the fact that I've only been fly fishing once this summer at all, no, the second time I've been fly fishing the last 2 summers, means I am quite rusty. I was too excited and I pulled the hook out of the fish's mouth each time before they could solidly get it into their lip somewhere. I saw at least 3 of them bump. And then fishing the base of the waterfall on the right side, I had a little fingerling turd trying to eat it the entire time I was trying to pull it out of the water, but he just couldn't get his mouth around the fly. It's kind of entertaining. It's not the first time I've had it happen to me. I'm sure it won't be the last. But I thought the fall scenery and the explosion of vine maple that's occasionally along the trail, and sometimes the huckleberries too, were too pretty not to take a nice quiet little video back to close out summer. We're probably 10 minutes back up the trail to towards the trailhead from our creek horse camp. A little bit of blue sky. It's been mostly sunny but getting progressively cloudier as the day has gone by. And shortly before I stopped fishing, it had completely clouded over there for a while.
And here's the outro for the Waptus River Isis Falls. I'm calling it Waptus Falls. Isis Falls, I mean, with what's going on, I think you can understand why I'm going to want to change the name. Not my name, I didn't give it, it's just what's on the waterfall databases. Who knows, it's probably been there since the 60s or 70s, and it's just unfortunate circumstance. Anyway, this is the outro to that video. It was a nice leisurely hike. We didn't leave the trailhead till about 10:30. That's because we slept in and enjoyed the morning at our campsite before packing up and going. It was about 2.5 miles to our creek and to the horse camp where Sabrina set up, and I'm pretty sure she took a nap because I spent a good 45 minutes at the base of the waterfall fly fishing and just taking it all in. That also looks like a pretty dang good swimming hole, and that waterfall looks like it's probably pretty fierce in the summer with full snow melt. That will be cool to get out to on a day trip and do a little bit more fishing up and down the river and maybe swimming at the base of the waterfall. But yeah, that trail continues on for another 6 miles to a big lake that's very popular with backpacking. And there's a whole bunch more trails to branch off of. Hopefully I'll be able to go out there and do a backpacking trip next summer or the summer afterwards. Anyway, thank you for joining Sabrina and I on this trip. Hopefully I'll get out and do a couple more hikes in the fall when the fall colors really come out in the high country. I'd like to go out and do a couple more hikes on the east side with the larches. If not, there should be a bunch of skiing and snowshoeing videos coming up this winter. Thank you for joining us. Give a like down below, give a comment down below, share to your favorite social media. Have a good one, and ciao.